Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Welcome back to our deep dive. You know, it's really easy to picture historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, as maybe something from the mid-20th century or perhaps the Civil Rights era. But the truth is, the roots go much, much deeper. We're talking about dozens and dozens of these vital institutions founded before 1950. Some stretch back well over 150 years.
It's an incredible history, and when you think about the context, severe segregation, outright hostility in many cases, founding a college was, a monumental act.
Absolutely. It wasn't just about classrooms and books. It was about self-determination, about carving out a space for opportunity where society was actively trying to deny it.
Exactly. So this deep dive, it's really about exploring those origins. What were the initial missions? Who were the people driving this? It's fundamental to understanding the fight for educational equity in America.
Right. So if you've ever wondered about the evolution of higher education in the U.S., or maybe the specifics of how these particular institutions battled for existence and impact, well, you're definitely in the right place. We've been digging through historical records, summaries, all sorts of accounts detailing HBCU foundations between roughly 1837 and 1950. It's a huge amount of information, really fascinating stuff.
It really is.
And our mission today, our goal, is to sort of unpack that. We want to uncover the diverse beginnings, the unique goals, those pivotal early years for a whole slew of these schools, and give you a real sense of this landscape.
Sounds good. It's a rich story to tell.
Okay, let's jump in. Where do we even begin? We have to start with the real pioneers, right? The ones established even before the Civil War.
Absolutely. That period, say 1837 up to 1865, it's foundational. And what's really striking is that even before emancipation, you see these seeds being planted, often a mix of philanthropy and sheer aspiration from the Black community itself.
So first up has to be Cheyney University, Pennsylvania, 1837. Just think about that date for a second.
Yeah, it's decades before the war.
Decades. It's recognized as the very first institution of higher learning for African Americans in the U.S. It owes its existence to a Quaker philanthropist, Richard Humphreys. He saw the need, left money in his will specifically for this purpose.
Right. And it started as the African Institute, then became the Institute for Colored Youth. The name changed over time, but that core idea was there from day one.
What strikes me there, too, is the role of someone like Humphreys, a white philanthropist. It points to some level of collaboration, or at least shared understanding of the injustice, even that early on.
It does, though we have to be careful not to overstate it given the times. But yes, individuals like Humphreys using their resources created openings where basically none existed. It thinks that those early, often overlooked cross-racial efforts.
Okay, moving forward a bit, 1854, Lincoln University, also in Pennsylvania. This one marks another major milestone.
The first degree granting HBCU.
Exactly. Founded by Presbyterian ministers John Miller Dickey and Sarah Emlyn Cresson. Their goal was higher education, specifically liberal arts and sciences, for young Black men. It wasn't just basic skills. It was aiming higher.
That's a critical distinction. Moving to degree granting status shows a shift, right? It's not just about literacy anymore. It's about developing intellectual leadership, providing an education on par with what was available to white students.
A clear step up in ambition. Then, just 2 years later, 1856, we get Wilberforce University in Ohio.
Wilberforce. Really significant.
Why is that? What makes it stand out?
Well, it's the oldest private HBCU continuously owned and operated by African Americans. That's key. It was a joint venture initially between the AME Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and the Methodist Episcopal Church, but the AME Church took full control later.
And named after William Wilberforce, the British abolitionist.
Right. And its initial focus was classical education and teacher training. That tells you a lot about the priorities, intellectual rigor, plus building the capacity to educate their own.
That AME Church connection seems vital. Owning and operating meant they could really shape the curriculum, the environment, make it relevant.
Absolutely. Agency was huge. And that focus on teacher training pops up again and again. It was about building the infrastructure for education from within the community.
Okay, 1857 takes us west of the Mississippi, Harris State University.
Yeah, in St. Louis. Its origins are a bit different.
How so?
It was started by the St. Louis Public Schools as a normal school, basically, a teacher training school. And it was the first public teacher education institution west of the Mississippi. Now, it wasn't exclusively for African Americans initially, but it played a crucial role.
So a public entity involved early on. That's interesting. It suggests some recognition, at least in St. Louis, of the need for trained teachers across the board.
It does, and it shows this push for educational infrastructure wasn't just an East Coast thing. The question, of course, is how accessible it truly was for Black educators at the very start.
Right. Then we get to the Civil War years. 1862, the beginnings of Lemoyne-Owen College in Memphis.
Yes, started as Lincoln Chapel, an elementary school initially.
Founded by the American Missionary Association, the AMA, their goal was pretty direct: educate freedmen and runaway slaves during the war.
The AMA was incredibly active in the South, especially during and right after the war. They established hundreds of schools. For Lemoyne-Owen, starting as an elementary school and evolving into higher ed shows that trajectory of meeting immediate needs and then building upwards.
You can really see the direct link there.
Yeah.
The fight for freedom and then immediately the pursuit of education.
It was fundamental. Knowledge was power, literally.
Okay, so that takes us to 1865, the end of the Civil War. And suddenly, boom, a huge surge in the founding of HBCUs. Why then? What changed so dramatically?
Well, emancipation is the obvious answer. Millions of people were newly free, and the thirst for education was overwhelming. After generations of being denied learning, it was seen as absolutely essential for, well, everything: self-determination, economic survival, participating in civic life. It was a powerful expression of freedom.
Makes perfect sense. So who's leading this 1865 wave?
Let's start with Bowie State University in Maryland. It's the state's oldest HBCU, and actually one of the 10 oldest in the whole country.
And how did it start?
As the Baltimore Normal School, again, that focus on teacher training. You see the pattern. Maryland needed Black teachers for its Black schools, and Bowie State stepped into that role right away.
That teacher training focus.
Mm-hmm.
Why was it so consistently prioritized?
Several reasons, really. One, the sheer numerical need for teachers in Black communities was enormous. Two, teaching was often one of the very few professional paths open to educated African Americans at the time. And maybe most importantly, training their own teachers meant communities could ensure education was culturally relevant, fostering pride, not just academics.
Control over the narrative, anyway.
Absolutely.
Also in 1865, we have the roots of Clark Atlanta University. Now, the university itself formed from a merger later on, but the parent institution started here.
Right. Atlanta University and Clark College, both trace back to 1865.
And Atlanta University is particularly notable, isn't it?
Yes, it was the first HBCU to award graduate degrees to African Americans. That's significant. Clark College, meanwhile, was founded by the Freedmen's Aid Society, focusing more on the undergraduate level.
So right from 1865 in Atlanta, you have one institution aiming for graduate-level scholarship and another focused on undergraduate access. What does that tell us?
It tells us the vision was broad even then. It wasn't just about basic literacy. There was an immediate understanding of the need for advanced scholarship, for leadership development at the highest levels, alongside the crucial work of providing foundational college education, a multi-pronged approach.
Fascinating. And still in 1865, another huge one, Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Shaw has a massive claim to fame, the first HBCU founded in the South after the Civil War.
Wow. Okay. Established as the Raleigh Theological Institute by the American Baptist Home Missionary Society.
Right. And its early impact was staggering. They educated something like nearly 1,000 formerly enslaved people in just the first 4 years. Imagine the challenges, though, being the first in the post-war South.
Oh, I can only imagine. Intense hostility, minimal resources, probably constant threats.
Exactly. Building a safe learning space would have required immense courage from everyone involved: founders, teachers, students. It's hard to overstate the bravery that took.
Incredible resilience. Okay, let's round out 1865 with Virginia Union University in Richmond.
VUU was formed through merging earlier institutions, like the Richmond Theological Seminary,
Its goal?
to provide higher education in a specifically religious environment for the newly emancipated. We see this a lot, the strong connection to faith-based organizations.
Yeah, that religious underpinning seems almost universal in these early years. Why was that link so strong?
Well, practically speaking, churches often had the only existing infrastructure, buildings, networks, some level of organization that the Black community could readily access or control. Plus, there was a powerful moral and spiritual dimension. Education and faith were seen as deeply intertwined paths to upliftment and liberation. The church was the center of life for many.
Right. It provided a framework, a support system, when society offered little else.
Precisely.
Okay, so the Civil War ends and the floodgates open. Let's move into that next decade, 1866 to 1875. What are the key trends we see?
We see continued rapid growth, absolutely, but also maybe a bit more diversification. Institutions are solidifying, expanding beyond just teacher training or theology, forging distinct identities.
Makes sense. Let's look at 1866, Edward Waters University in Florida.
Founded by the AME Church. It holds the title of Florida's first HBCU.
Specifically created to educate freedmen and their children, and that AME affiliation continues right to this day.
It really highlights the long-term commitment of denominations like the AME Church. They weren't just starting schools, they were investing for generations. It provided stability and a guiding ethos.
Also, 1866, very famous name, Fisk University in Nashville.
Ah, Fisk, yes. Established to educate newly freed slaves, named for General Clinton B. Fisk of the Freedmen's Bureau.
And it developed into a top-tier liberal arts institution. But everyone knows Fisk because of...
Fisk Jubilee Singers. Exactly. Their story is incredible in its own right.
How important were groups like the Jubilee Singers for these early schools? Was it just about music?
Oh, it was far more than just music. They were absolutely critical for fundraising. They toured the U.S. and Europe, raising enormous sums, essentially saving Fisk and other institutions from financial collapse. But they were also cultural ambassadors.
How so?
They introduced white audiences nationally and internationally to the dignity and artistry of Black spirituals and music. They challenged racist stereotypes and raised awareness about the very existence and purpose of these new colleges. They were powerful advocates.
Wow. Fundraising, ambassadorship, cultural preservation, all through music. That's amazing.
It really is.
Okay, another 1866 founding, this one with a unique origin story. Lincoln University in Missouri.
Yes, this one is remarkable. Founded primarily by African-American soldiers, veterans from the 62nd and 65th United States Colored Infantries of the Civil War.
Soldiers pooling their money to start a school.
Exactly. They started it as the Lincoln Institute. It's just an incredible example of self-reliance and foresight. These men had fought for freedom, and then they immediately turned their attention to securing the intellectual tools needed to live as free citizens.
That says so much about their understanding of what freedom truly meant. It wasn't just the absence of chains.
Not at all. It was about empowerment, knowledge, opportunity. Their actions speak volumes.
Also, 1866, down in Mississippi, we have Rust College.
Right. Founded in Holly Springs. Interestingly, it was initially chartered as Shaw University.
Wait, another Shaw University?
Yes, that caused some confusion, understandably. It was later renamed to honor Reverend Richard S. Rust, a prominent figure in the Freedmen's Aid Society. But it's one of the oldest HBCUs in Mississippi.
Why the name changes and overlaps? Was it common?
It happened reasonably often in the early days. There was a relatively small pool of widely recognized names, abolitionists, supporters, religious leaders, that founders wanted to honor. As institutions grew, got new benefactors, or just wanted a unique identity, names would change. It was part of the evolution.
Okay, 1867. This year seems incredibly busy for HBCU foundations. Just an explosion.
It really was. Reconstruction was underway, and the push for education was intense.
Let's start with Alabama State University. Its beginnings sound incredibly humble.
Almost unbelievably so. Started in Marion, Alabama as the Lincoln Normal School, founded by 9 formerly enslaved men, known today as the Marion Nine.
And how did they fund it?
They raised just $500. That's it. An initial $500 pooled together by these 9 men to start a school. It's just a stunning example of grassroots determination.
Absolutely inspiring. The commitment is just, wow.
Yeah.
Also, 1867, Barber Scotia College in North Carolina.
Yes, formed eventually from the merger of Scotia Seminary and Barber Memorial College, established by the Presbyterian Church.
And its initial focus was specific, right?
Right. Yes, initially it was focused on educating African-American women, training women teachers, leaders for the community. It only became coeducational much later.
So the Presbyterians saw educating women as a priority early on. What does that suggest?
It suggests they recognized the absolutely crucial role women played in families, churches, community uplift. Educating women was seen as key to elevating the entire race. These women's seminaries offered opportunities that were desperately needed in a society that severely restricted options for Black women.
Right. Fayetteville State University, also 1867, North Carolina again.
Started as the Howard School, like many others, it eventually became a state-supported teacher training institution.
That shift to state support, what drove that? Was it purely altruistic?
Rarely purely altruistic. It was often a mix of factors: growing political pressure from Black communities, a recognition by the state of the need for Black teachers, even in a segregated system, and sometimes federal incentives tied to education funding. But the funding was almost always unequal. State support for Black schools lagged far behind white institutions. It was a step, but often a small and grudging one.
The separate but equal fallacy in action.
Precisely.
Okay. We absolutely cannot talk about 1867 without mentioning the giant, Howard University in Washington, D.C.
No, you certainly cannot. Howard is unique.
Founded directly by an act of the U.S. Congress, named for General Oliver O. Howard, head of the Freedmen's Bureau.
That federal involvement is huge. It signaled, at least initially, a national-level commitment or acknowledgement of the need for higher education for African Americans. Its location in D.C. also gave it immediate prominence.
And its mission was broad from the start. Liberal arts, sciences, professional schools later on. It aimed high.
It really did, and it quickly became a hub for Black intellectuals and a leader in research and civil rights advocacy. Its impact is just immense.
Okay, still in 1867, Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Another Presbyterian founding, started as Biddle Memorial Institute.
And its initial focus.
Primarily educating Black men for the ministry, like we saw with some others. It was later renamed Johnson C. Smith after a major donation from Mrs. Jane Barry Smith in honor of her late husband.
That focus on ministry keeps coming up. Why was training ministers so central?
Because the minister was often the central figure in the Black community. They weren't just spiritual leaders. They were often community organizers, educators, political advocates, counselors. An educated ministry was seen as essential for guiding the community through incredibly difficult times.
Okay, makes sense. And then also 1867, another incredibly well-known name, Morehouse College.
Yes, originally founded in Augusta, Georgia as the Augusta Institute.
Also focused on theology and education for Black men initially.
Correct. It later moved to Atlanta and was renamed in honor of Henry Lyman Morehouse, a key figure in the American Baptist Home Mission Society, which strongly supported the school.
Morehouse has this incredible legacy of producing leaders, Dr. King obviously, but so many others in various fields. What do you think is the key to that enduring legacy?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think it's a combination of things. A rigorous academic environment, yes, but also a profound emphasis on character, leadership, service, and frankly, instilling a sense of responsibility to uplift the race. The Morehouse mystique, they call it. It's about fostering excellence and social consciousness in Black men.
A powerful combination.
Yeah.
Okay, still in 1867, Morgan State University in Baltimore.
Started as the Centenary Biblical Institute.
By the Methodist Episcopal Church, again with that initial goal of training ministers.
Yes. It later became Morgan College and then eventually Morgan State University, a public institution.
So another example of that transition from private religious founding to state university status. What are the trade-offs there?
Well, the big advantage of becoming public is usually more stable funding from the state, potentially lower tuition, making it more accessible. The potential downside can be less autonomy, more state bureaucracy, maybe political pressures that could dilute its specific mission or focus on the Black community. It's often a complex calculation for these institutions.
I can see that. Also 1867, St. Augustine's University in Raleigh.
Founded by the Episcopal Church. Their stated mission was very direct: educate freed slaves. Simple as that.
Another example of sustained commitment from a religious denomination.
Absolutely. These church affiliations provided not just money, but a moral compass and a supportive community structure.
And one more for 1867, Talladega College in Alabama.
Talladega has a powerful founding story, too. Established by two former slaves, William Savory and Thomas Tarrant, with support from the American Missionary Association.
Founded by formerly enslaved men themselves.
Yes. It's Alabama's oldest private HBCU. That act of formerly enslaved individuals founding a college. It just speaks volumes about their belief in education as the path forward. It's profoundly moving.
Truly. Okay, let's move into 1868, Hampton University in Virginia.
Known initially as Hampton Normal and Agricultural Institute.
Founded by General Samuel Chapman Armstrong. And the name suggests its focus.
Exactly. A dual focus on teacher, normal training, and practical vocational skills, agriculture, trades. This reflected Armstrong's particular educational philosophy, often called the Hampton model.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey there. Welcome to Good Advice Giver. First, we want to start by saying a massive thank you for tuning in today. Whether you're a long-time listener or you're joining us for the first time, We're truly grateful to have you here. We know you've got a lot of options when it comes to podcasts, so the fact that you're spending your time with us means the world. So thank you.
That's right. We're excited to have you with us because here on Good Advice Giver, we cover just about everything. Whether you're interested in sports, relationships, sex, money, finances, business, digital marketing, music, education, movies, comedy, or something else entirely, we've got it all. No topic is off limits here, and we dive deep into real, meaningful conversations that matter.
We've also got a mix of male and female hosts, so you're always getting a well-rounded perspective on every topic we cover, from business strategies to personal development, from car shopping to digital products like affiliate marketing. We bring a little bit of everything to the table. Our goal is to offer advice, insights, and some laughs along the way to make sure you feel welcome and engaged, no matter what brought you here.
And it doesn't stop there. We're not just about giving great advice, we're about action. On this podcast, we even sell products and services we believe in, from affiliate marketing opportunities to cars and more. So whether you're looking to boost your business or find practical ways to improve your everyday life, you're in the right place.
As always, we want you to stay connected with us. Be sure to download this episode so you can listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're commuting, working out, or just relaxing. And while you're at it, follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. That's the best way to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, behind-the-scenes content, and even giveaways.
And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're posting extra content there, including video podcasts and deep dive discussions you won't want to miss. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what topics you want to hear more about.
Lastly, check out the link below in the description for exclusive offers, resources, and more ways to connect with us. We're here for you, and we can't wait to bring you more valuable content. Thanks again for tuning in to Good Advice Giver. Let's get started.
Why that emphasis on vocational training alongside academics? Was that common?
It was a significant model, yes, though sometimes controversial. The idea was practical skills were essential for economic self-sufficiency for newly freed people. Agriculture and trades offered immediate pathways to earning a living. The debate was sometimes whether this emphasis came at the expense of a more rigorous liberal arts education.
The Booker T. Washington versus W.E.B. Du Bois debate in miniature almost.
In some ways, yes. It reflected different philosophies on the best path to racial upliftment.
Okay, 1869, Claflin University in South Carolina.
Founded by Methodist missionaries. Claflin has a really interesting distinction.
What's that?
It was the first university in South Carolina that was open to all students, regardless of race or gender, right from its founding.
Wow, in 1869, South Carolina. That's incredibly progressive and, frankly, brave.
Extremely brave. It must have faced enormous pressure. But it set a standard, even if it was difficult to maintain in practice later on as Jim Crow laws tightened. It was a statement.
A powerful statement. Also, 1869, the roots of Dillard University in New Orleans.
Yes, like Clark Atlanta, Dillard formed later from a merger. The predecessor institutions, Straight University and New Orleans University, both got their start around 1869, both with strong church affiliations.
Why merge later on? What's the typical driver?
Often it's about consolidating resources, strengthening academic programs, maybe achieving greater financial stability. By combining forces, they could potentially create a stronger, more comprehensive institution for the Black community in New Orleans.
Makes sense. Okay, 1870, Allen University in Columbia, South Carolina.
Another AME church founding, named after Bishop Richard Allen himself, the founder of the AME Church.
That naming convention really anchors it in that specific tradition.
Absolutely. It connects the university directly to the origins of the AME Church and its long fight for Black autonomy and uplift. It's highly symbolic.
Also 1870, right there in Columbia, South Carolina as well, Benedict College.
Founded by Northern Baptists, specifically Bathsheba A. Benedict, who provided the initial funding. Its purpose was clearly stated: to educate freedmen.
So we see Northern Baptists, Methodists, Presbyterians, the AMA, Quakers. Why were these Northern religious groups so invested in Southern Black education?
Many felt a strong moral and religious obligation after the Civil War. It was tied to abolitionist sentiments, a belief in the equality of souls, and a desire to help the formerly enslaved transition to freedom. They saw education as absolutely vital for spiritual, economic, and social progress. They had resources and organizational capacity that were desperately needed.
Okay. 1871 takes us to Alcorn State University in Mississippi. This one's a landmark.
Huge landmark. Alcorn was the first black land-grant college in the United States.
The first one, established under the Morrill Land Grant Acts, named after the Mississippi governor at the time, James L. Alcorn. What did being a land-grant institution mean practically?
It meant access to federal land and funding, specifically directed towards teaching agriculture, mechanical arts, engineering, and military science, alongside other studies. For Black communities in the agrarian South, this was potentially transformative. It provided public resources for practical education vital for economic development.
But there's a catch.
Right, always a catch. While the Second Morrill Act required states to either admit Black students to existing land-grant schools or establish separate ones, which is what usually happened, the funding for these Black land-grant institutions, the 1890s institutions as they're often called, was consistently and dramatically less than their white counterparts. Separate, but deeply unequal.
So a crucial step, but still within that unequal system.
Exactly.
1872, Paul Quinn College in Texas.
Founded by AME church preachers, started in Austin, later moved to Waco, and now in Dallas, again focused on educating freed slaves and their children.
The fact that it was preachers who founded it really highlights that integration of roles we talked about.
Yes. Religious leaders were community leaders in almost every sense. They saw a need for education, and they took the initiative, often with very few resources beyond their faith and determination.
Incredible. 1873 brings us the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff.
Started as Branch Normal College. As the name suggests, it was established as a branch of the main white Arkansas Industrial University, specifically for training Black teachers.
Another example of the state creating a separate institution.
Yes, it became a land-grant institution later under the 1890 Act, similar to Alcorn, but its origin as a branch underscores the segregated approach.
Also, 1873, Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Bennett has an interesting history. It actually started as a coeducational institution.
Oh, I know it now as a women's college.
Right. It transitioned later in the 1920s to focus exclusively on the education of African-American women. It became one of only 2 HBCUs exclusively for women, along with Spelman.
Why that shift? What led Bennett to focus solely on women?
It likely reflected a specific vision about the need for a dedicated space to cultivate the leadership and intellectual potential of Black women. In a society rife with both racism and sexism, creating an environment tailored to their needs, free from the specific dynamics of coeducation at that time, was seen as crucial for empowerment.
A space for them to thrive without those additional pressures.
Exactly.
Okay, rounding out this period, 1875, Alabama A&M University.
Founded as the Colored Normal School at Huntsville. And the founder's story is remarkable.
Who was it?
Dr. William Hooper Council. A former slave himself, he became its first president.
Former slave founding what would become a university.
Yes. And he successfully lobbied for it to become a land-grant institution as well. His leadership and vision overcoming his own past under slavery is just another testament to the incredible drive behind these schools.
Absolutely profound. So as we move past 1875 into the late 19th and early 20th century, say up to 1950, what changes do we see?
We see continued founding, though perhaps the pace slows slightly compared to that immediate post-Reconstruction boom. We definitely see more state-supported institutions emerging, often growing out of normal schools or high schools. The land-grant movement continues to shape many HBCUs.
And maybe a broadening of focus beyond just theology and teaching.
Yes, more emphasis on liberal arts, sciences, and increasingly specific vocational and technical fields beyond the initial agricultural and mechanical focus of the land-grant schools. You also see junior colleges starting to emerge later in this period.
So the landscape keeps evolving. Let's touch on some examples from this later era. We won't hit every single one. There's so many, but some key developments.
Okay. For instance, 1876, Prairie View A&M University in Texas. Another crucial land-grant institution established specifically for African Americans.
1877, Jackson State University in Mississippi, starting as Natchez Seminary, founded by the American Baptist Home Mission Society. Again, that Baptist support.
Right. It moved to Jackson later and evolved into a state university.
1879, Livingston College in North Carolina, founded by the AME Zion Church. another major Black denomination stepping up.
And Payne College in Augusta, Georgia, 1882. Interesting because it was intentionally founded as an interracial effort between Southern white Methodists and the Colored Methodist Episcopal Church, later CME.
An explicit attempt at collaboration. How common was that?
Less common than institutions founded solely by Black denominations or Northern white groups, especially in the Deep South by the 1880s. Payne's founding is quite noteworthy for that reason.
Okay, 1880s. Spelman College, 1881. We mentioned Bennett earlier. Spelman is the other historically Black college for women.
Yes, started as Atlanta Baptist Female Seminary, received crucial early funding from the Rockefeller family, hence the renaming to honor Laura Spelman Rockefeller. Like Bennett, it focused on providing rigorous academic and leadership training for Black women.
And Tuskegee University, 1881 in Alabama, founded by Booker T. Washington.
Tuskegee is hugely significant, embodying Washington's philosophy of industrial education, self-help, and vocational training as the primary path to Black advancement, very much in the Hampton model tradition, but arguably even more influential under Washington's leadership.
That emphasis on industrial education was central there.
Absolutely. Agriculture, trades, domestic science, practical skills for economic independence.
Then you have schools like Kentucky State University, 1886, Virginia State University, 1882, Florida A&M University, 1887, all starting around this time, often as normal or agricultural mechanical schools, frequently with state support and land grant status.
Exactly. The state role becomes more prominent, especially with the requirements of the Second Morrill Act in 1890, pushing for the creation of these separate land grant institutions if states wouldn't integrate.
And into the 1890s, schools like North Carolina A&T State University, 1891, Delaware State University, 1891, South Carolina State University, 1896, Savannah State University, 1890, West Virginia State University, 1891. A lot of state-supported, often land-grant institutions founded in this decade.
Yes, the 1890s were a key period for the establishment of the 1890 institutions, the historically Black land-grant universities. It really solidified that parallel system of higher education in many southern and border states.
Moving into the early 20th century, say 1900 to 1950, we still see foundings like Elizabeth City State University, 1891, but developing significantly later, Grambling State University, 1901, starting as a private industrial school, North Carolina Central University, 1910, founded by James E. Shepard as a private institution initially, Tennessee State University, 1912, state-funded normal school.
Right. Many institutions founded in this period started as normal schools or even high schools and gradually evolved into four-year colleges and universities over several decades. The path wasn't always direct.
And you also start seeing some junior colleges emerge that later gain HBCU status, focusing often on vocational or technical training, like Coahoma Community College, 1949, or Gadsden State Community College's Valley Street campus, 1935 origin.
Exactly. The landscape becomes more diverse, with different types of institutions serving different needs within the community, from two-year technical programs up to graduate and professional schools at the larger universities.
It's just an incredible sweep of history. Nearly 115 years from 1837 to 1950, just packed with the creation of these institutions against incredible odds.
It really is. When you lay it out like that, the scale of the effort is breathtaking.
So looking back over this whole deep dive, all these foundings, these stories, what are the big takeaways for you? What really stands out?
I think first, the sheer resilience and the unwavering belief in education within the Black community itself. From formerly enslaved individuals pooling pennies to soldiers founding schools to established churches making it a central mission, that internal drive is the core story.
Yeah.
Second, the absolutely critical role of allies and institutions, religious denominations, both Black and white, philanthropists, the federal government, however inconsistently, in providing resources and legitimacy when they were desperately needed.
Right. It was often a combination of internal drive and external support.
And third, the diversity of missions. Yes, teacher training and theology were crucial early on, but it quickly expanded to liberal arts, sciences, agriculture, trades, graduate studies, women's education. It was about building a comprehensive educational ecosystem.
That diversity is key. It wasn't monolithic. And for you listening to this, maybe the aha moment is just realizing the depth and breadth of this history. It's not just a handful of famous names. It's a vast network built over generations, often in the face of unimaginable adversity.
Absolutely. And understanding that history is crucial for appreciating the legacy. These institutions weren't just schools. They were incubators of leadership, engines of social mobility, preservers of culture, and vital centers for the civil rights movement and beyond. Their contribution to American society is profound.
It truly is. Their continued existence and importance today is a direct link back to those founding principles. So, maybe the thought to leave you with is this. Considering these origins, born from struggle but fueled by an incredible vision for a better future through education, what does the continuing story of HBCUs tell us about the enduring power of knowledge and the ongoing work needed to achieve true equity in our society today? And how might the lessons from their founding inform how we think about access and opportunity in higher education for all students now?
Powerful questions to ponder. Their history is not just history, it's a living legacy with lessons for today.
Today is your lucky day. Today is the day that our $3 website works for you, paying you directly to your PayPal daily. Imagine $3 ongoing continuous payments to your PayPal account. Imagine falling asleep and waking up to $300 in your PayPal account. How would this make you feel? How could this help you? What bills could you pay? What kind of fun could you have? What does that retirement look like now? All for a one-time payment of $3. This website is DFY done for you, fully built and completely hosted, and never stops collecting payments for you. You have spent $3 on coffee on a regular, but that coffee won't help you create multiple streams of income. Click the link below.